Hi everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Jamie, I'm the Remax sponsor, and you're about to hear from the Master Gardeners about seed starting. So we have Alyssa and Jan. Would you please give them a round of applause? I will give this to you, Alyssa. Yep.
Yes, thank you. Okay. As she said, my name is Jen, and this is Alyssa. Alyssa? Okay. Yep. Can you hear me? No? No? Okay. Can you hear me now? Barely? Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to yell through the whole presentation. There. Better?
Act like you're trying to talk to the guy in the back row.
Can you hear me now? Okay, good. All right, I'll start over. As she said, she introduced both me, Jan, and Alyssa, and we are both members of the Central Shenandoah Valley Master Gardener Association, and we're here today to educate a little bit about the Master Gardeners and winter sowing of seeds. Okay, so let's get started. All right. First, I just want to give you a little background history on the development of land-grant universities and the Cooperative Extension Service. Congress passed the Morrill Act in 1872, and what that did was establish land-grant universities, and at the same time it established cooperative extension. What this did was it made it possible for growers to get information about agriculture, science, and information on engineering in places like Virginia Tech, Penn State, WVU, to get this knowledge without attending formal classes. So it could be that I am a large-scale farmer and I need to know more about some agricultural practice. Well, this made it possible for me to learn about that without going to formal classes. Okay. Our objective today is to understand the process of winter sowing, to understand how to create a mini greenhouse, and to start growing plants from seed. This is an ideal way to do it because the cost is less. You don't have to buy grow lights, extra equipment. You don't have to have any hardening off period where you're putting them out in the sun and then you're taking them back, or you're putting them in the shade for a while, or you put them out so they get a little bit of wind, or maybe taking them out of the wind. All of this is inclusive in the system. Okay. Also, it doesn't mention it here, but I will. The germination rate in this process is a lot higher than what you would normally expect. I used to grow plants, seedlings in my basement underneath grow lights, and I always had a problem with these little midges, these little gnats, and they would get on the plants and eat them alive when they were so young and tender, and I sprayed and it didn't do any good. Now, that's not going to be a problem with this sort of situation. Okay, the USDA has a definition of winter sowing, and I'll let you read it to yourself, but then I want to mention 4 key points in this definition, so I'll give you a minute to read it. Okay, there are 4 things in this definition that are important. One of them is throughout the winter. So this is important. Seed sowing, this winter sowing can start in December, and it runs through January, February, March, April. So it truly is throughout the winter. Naturally timed is another key phrase in this definition. Mother Nature decides when these seeds will germinate. So it's not you're not putting like heated mats underneath anything. You're not bringing the grow lights down lower. Mother Nature decides, and it's a naturally timed germination. High percentage germination, which I mentioned earlier, is much higher germination rate than at least me in my basement. And climate tolerant seedlings, that's another way of saying that they have already been hardened off naturally. It's not something you have to do in addition. Any questions so far? No? All right, simply put, an incredibly easy way to grow seedlings in the winter. All right, now here's the why. I'll let you read some of the whys, and then I'll explain a little bit about them. So it is fun and easy. It's also something nice to do in the winter when normally you'd just be dreaming over seed catalogs and making lists and drawing pictures of what your garden's going to look like. It's very cost effective. You have little loss of seedlings, plus you don't have to buy all the extra stuff that I did, like grow lights and heating mats and special little containers. Saves you money. You have control of the germination location and conditions because you place your containers in the optimal place around your house. Obviously, it's environmentally friendly. All the containers can be reused. You're not causing anything to go to the landfill. And there's more variety. I know a lot of times when I go start looking at all the wonderful greenhouses that get open in April, the end of April, and I'm looking at all the varieties of tomatoes and peppers. They don't always have my favorite. In this situation, you have control of the variety because you buy the seeds of the plants that you want, and you aren't subject to whatever's available. And if you go a little late, sometimes they're all picked over and you can't find your favorite anyway. Can you all still hear me? I'm not used to yelling. Okay, thanks. All right, so the next one is the when, which we talked about throughout the winter. Whoops, more reasons, sorry. Another thing that's nice when you're growing in a container with the soil that you've selected. In the picture here, you can see that these things are growing without any competition from weeds. If you sow your seeds outside in a garden, immediately they're in an environment where other things are germinating and they're competing for resources. You control the competition in this sowing method. It also provides natural stratification, which is that cold spell that many seeds need to germinate, and scarification, which is the breaking down of the seed coat. I know I used to buy nasturtium seeds, and they always said to like scratch them or do something to break up the seed coat and then soak them and then plant them. Well, you don't have to do any of that. You just plant them, and this cold and warm and wet cycle will take care of that seed coat. It also, as I said before, eliminates the need for hardening off, and it reduces the need for watering, which I think Alyssa's going to address that. Yes.
Is there any plants that you have to recommend directly showing in the ground starting?
Okay, well, before I answer that question, his question was, do you recommend any particular plants for direct sowing in the ground? I think Alyssa's going to talk a little bit more about that, but some of your bigger seeds, like for example, I just bought some sunflower seeds. I don't think I'm going to winter sow sunflower seeds. I don't need to get a head start on anything. I will just probably put those in the ground. So some of your bigger seeds that germinate quickly and come up, is there anything that you don't particularly?
You said nasturtium.
I would just before the scarification to get that seed coat broken down early and get that little baby plant started.
There is another way that you can do instead of winter sowing. It's called no transplant winter sowing. Those you put in the ground, but you'll be covering similar to what we're going to be talking about. Okay?
Okay, thank you. All right, now here's the when. In December, January, and February, you can start with native plants that require that cold stratification. And here's a list. And I see some people are taking notes, so I'm going to just pause right here and give you a chance to write some of those down. If anybody has a question about any of those plants. December, January, and February. Other perennials requiring that cold period include lavender catnip, hellebores, and Chinese lanterns.
This is from seed.
Yes. Your seed packets that you should buy should indicate to you if they require a cold period. Yes. Oh, okay, that's next. Yes, okay. Although this could, you can totally winter sow vegetables, so you'll just get this, and then you'll get the vegetables, the best practices later. Any other questions so far? No? Okay. Native grasses, vines, and trees. Yes, you can winter sow trees. I have a lot of redbuds in my front yard, and they do come up by themselves a lot in my flower beds. But they're very hard to transplant. They have a really deep taproot, and when I try to transplant them to get them friends or family, a lot of times I damage the root. So I would consider, if you're wanting to do something like a redbud, to do the winter sow method. He just said same with the pawpaw. Pawpaw's a seed though, right? A big seed. I don't know, have you ever grown anything from a large seed like that? Try it, yeah, that's, you can try it. Yeah. I've never done anything that large before. But it would, I think, break down that seed coat for you for sure. All right. Whoops. Let me go back. Here's your vegetables for you. December, January, February, your cold weather vegetables first. So your spinaches, kales, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, broccoli. And here's your herbs. And it doesn't mean only these. These are just examples. There are other herbs that you could be, yes. Oh, okay. His concern was seeds rotting in the soil. This also takes care of that because as you will see how we construct the containers for this, the drainage prevents that concern. And you'll see more about that. But that's a real concern. All right. Yes.
On those lists are for not direct sow. This is starting
In a container, yes. But it isn't limited to those. Beyond that, you can, like Alyssa said, if you're not sure, try it. You might be pleasantly surprised. All right, here's some hardy annuals. Your ornamental kales, pansies, and again, other hardy annuals can be sown earlier in the winter. Okay, now here we are in March or April. I would not think that I could not, the things that were listed for December, January, February, you can still sow them now. You're not behind in any way. I was out Saturday afternoon, and I was still winter sowing things, so you're not late. So in March and April you have your tender annuals as opposed to your hardy annuals, more herbs and more vegetables. The less cold-tolerant vegetables in the farthest list, you can still be sowing them in April and not worrying about a frost. About another minute. I see people taking some notes. Oh, this information is not currently on our website because it is not It was developed, some of it was developed from the University of Maryland, Cooperative Extension. So if we put it on our website, we would have to check with them if we could publish it on our website. But that's a possibility in the future. April, just right around the corner now. All your favorite things to eat in the summer can be sown in April. Even your fall, your pumpkins, which we normally associate more, is coming in the fall.
Again, all in containers, all indoors.
All right, all in. This is not indoors. It is outdoors. Outdoors. Containers. Yes. And his question was, is this all outdoors and in containers? Yes. All right. Now, yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Like I said, these lists are just examples. They're not exclusive of every other type of seed. This is just some common garden vegetables that people like to plant. Any of your vegetables can be winter sown. All right, let's talk about getting started. This is a picture of a friend of ours who's also a master gardener. She puts her containers on her deck. So let's see what we need to do to get started. All right, some of the things you'll need are containers, and Alyssa will discuss those. Potting mix, and I want to warn you, we didn't bring it with us, but in this picture it says seed starting mix. If you have ever picked up a seed starting mix, it is so light. It has a lot of vermiculite in it, and it's meant to be light and airy so it doesn't compress on the seeds. That is not what you want to buy. What you will buy, and I can't recommend any brand, but it's a well-known brand potting soil. Just a potting soil, not a seed starting mix. Okay? You'll need duct tape, a permanent marker, scissors or a sharp knife, seeds, and of course a little bit of water. Yes. Some people do use this. Right, but I can't recommend that above anything else. Okay? So, but I will say a high quality potting mix, and some potting mixes do have that as an ingredient. He was asking about the coconut coir mix. Some of the potting mixes have that in it. And if it's a good quality potting mix that you're familiar with, use it. All right, helpful to have also is a bucket, a container to mix the potting mix and the water, coffee filters, newspaper, plant tags for identification, gloves, a trowel, and a drill. Now there are 10 simple steps, and this is where Alyssa is going to really tell you how to do it. So get your pencils ready.
Okay, at the end, we have handouts for you guys too. And this is just a general thing. You can plant anything this way. I did 61 milk jugs last year, and all of them but 6 germinated, and that was because the wind knocked them over. I started out with 40 tomato plants. There were more, but I just didn't have any more space. Okay.
Do you want me to click for you?
Yeah.
Just look at me.
Containers, milk jugs, juice jugs, vinegar jugs. These are great because they have a handle, so that I can put a broom handle or a T-post or even a tree limb through there so the wind doesn't knock them over. I've already drilled the holes in the bottom. That takes care of you worrying about whether your seeds are going to rot because the soil's too wet. There's drainage holes there. I have 2 holes on either side there. And you can take a coffee mug, anything that's going to give you about 4-inch height or a little more, mark it around the side, and then cut that open. Do not cut all the way around because you need a hinge there. Because once you have your second set of true leaves, then you're going to open it up and let the plants get some sunlight. You do not leave the cap on the jug. They need ventilation that way. They also need for moisture to get in there. When you first put them in there, your soil's going to be wet, so you might have to check to see if it needs watered again. If there's condensation in the jug, then the watering's okay. Anything should germinate if the time and the temperature's right. That's why Mother Nature's involved in. You think of seeds that have been thrown out on the ground, if the birds or the animals don't get them, they're going to germinate when it's the time. Okay.
Alyssa, did you want to tell them how you don't use a drill anymore?
Yes, I don't use a drill. My husband would drill them for me, and lots of times it would put off an odor, so you'd either have the odor or you'd have the smoke detector going off. Most people, especially crafters, would have a glue gun. Just plug it in, get it heated up, and this point here is what will put the hole in it. You can also use a knife, but we've seen a picture of a lady that it slipped and she ended up getting stitches.
I use a glue gun as well. Yes.
You can use 2-liter bottles, ice cream tubs, baggies. There's people that have been used baggies, then you can open them up easier that way. You don't have to worry about taping them with duct tape. Take-out containers. Drink cups are okay, but you're only going to probably want to put one plant in there because you're not going to have room for them to grow. So they should be cleaned. You can rinse them out. I just turn mine upside down. I don't necessarily dry them. Native plants and perennials take at least 4 inches. So a good 4 to 6 inches, because once that soil settles down there, it's going to compress a little bit. So more is always better than less. And like Jan said, a good quality potting soil. No seed starter, just potting soil. If you want to spend some money, that's the place to spend your money. Okay, drainage holes, 4 to 6. I think I have about 6 to 8 in here. If you find that your soil is too wet, you can always add more holes. But I'd rather have it that way to start out with. Okay. All right. That's how you cut it in half and leave that hinge. If by chance you do cut it completely off, you can still tape it in place. A trick to tape it is once you've torn out your tape, put that on top. Keeps your top down on your bottom.
You might want to experiment before deciding on a container. A friend of ours who's usually here for the presentation has tried so many different containers, and one time a friend of hers gave her a collection of beautiful containers, clear. I think they had fruit in them. And when she tried to cut those to make a hinge, she decided this isn't happening. It was so hard. Milk jugs are very easy to cut. Same with vinegar bottles, spring water bottles. They seem to be pretty successful. But there are plastics. Some of those clear plastics are pretty hard and they can cut you. So just be careful when you're doing it. We just prefer the milk jugs.
And you don't want the solid white. You want them a little translucent so the sunlight can get in. Okay, so there shows you how to put the drainage holes in the lids. Yes? You can reuse them from year to year, yes. You don't really have to clean them out. One lady, she just goes ahead and dumps them. Take a rope, tie a rope on the end of one, and keep sliding them down. That's another reason why the handles are good. Okay, you want to have a label. You need to label these so that you'll know what's in them, because we write on the outside of the jugs, but lots of times the rain, the snow, the sun fades them. I take an old Venetian blind and cut it into a tag, label that, put that in my jug. I'm a little anal, so I have all of my jugs with holes in them, all of them with the potting soil in, and we'll get to how you do the potting soil. Then I tear my tape. I have my books, my ledger, so I know what number it is and what's in it. I also put down where I got that seed from because I want to know whether it's a good seed or not, whether I should buy it from them next year or not. Duct tape and a waterproof marker, a China marker, grease pencil. Last year when I did it, I also put a label with the duct tape on the bottom of it and wrote the same thing on there. I put mine out on the deck.
Yeah, believe me, you do not want to have a beautiful jug full of healthy seedlings and have no idea what it is. So as many places as you can list it is better.
Yeah. Okay. Add the potting mix in the water. If you're going to put it out on the ground, where you might have to worry about slugs getting through those holes, you want to put a piece of newspaper to cover those holes or a coffee filter. Something that makes it so they can't get up through there. Like I said, I put mine on the deck, so I don't worry about that part. This says 3 to 4 inches of potting
The
soil.
bottom of the
Yeah, bottom of the jug. 4 to 6 is better.
inside.
It's high. Yep.
Inside.
Inside. Cut it open. Put it down at the bottom. And if you think you can't find enough of these jugs, go to the recycling place. Last year the lady saved them for me. This year the young man said, I can't save them. He says, we can use them. So I just stood out from there and I asked the ladies as they came through, do you have any milk jugs that you don't want that I could have because I'm using them for gardening? Collected 24 from 2 ladies. Or go to Starbucks or Waffle House, someplace that you know that has, will be using a lot of these. All right, then you're going to tap it down so that it settles. This says water thoroughly. What we did instead is we started out with our potting soil already being moist, like a wrung out sponge almost. You're still going to need to water. We spritz with a spray bottle, but we'll get to that. Okay. Yes, sir.
If you're making soil, I've got like a big tub, so if I'm pre-mixing it with coconut oil, I just wet it right then and there.
Wet it right then and there. Wet it before you put it in your jug. It makes it much easier, and it also won't be as fluffy, so you'll be able to see that you've got adequate amount of soil in there. Okay, 1 type of seeds per container, and I'm sure you know why. Yes.
So it should be to where if you pick it up and squeeze it in your hand, water won't ring out of it, but it'll kind of keep its shape. You know what I mean? Okay.
1 type of seeds, kind of common sense because, okay, what kind of lettuce did I put in here? Did you put 2 kinds of lettuce? How are you going to know if you don't put 1 type of seed in the 1 container?
One variety,
One variety,
Yes.
one seed.
Yes.
Unless you like being confused. Yeah, or a salad
salad
mix,
mix.
if that's what you're intending.
If they're tiny seeds, you can mix them with coarse sand or just sprinkle them on top. It will also tell you on your package of seeds whether these seeds need light to germinate. If they need light to germinate, they're just going to be on top. You are not going to cover them whatsoever.
You want to explain why that is?
Yeah. The light to germinate, but also the soil is going to freeze and thaw. So it's going to heave like plants do outside if you don't have them deep enough in the ground. How sometimes you go out and look and okay, the plant's sitting on top of the ground. If they're large seeds, I don't follow the rules on the instructions on the bag. The soil's going to raise and lower a little bit. I may take some more dry potting soil and sprinkle on top of it. But you don't need to bury them really deep. Yes.
So with the carrots, you just mix it with the sand and put it on top.
So for small seeds, his question was, for example, carrots, which are very small. He said, do you just mix them with coarse sand and just sprinkle them on the top? And the answer is yes, but I go a little beyond that. Then, to make sure I have good soil contact, I actually Push it down.
Push it down.
Just tamp it down a little bit. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, these are the different methods of planting, and this will be after your seeds have germinated. Single spacing there, where you're going to take your tomato plants or whatever apart if you wanted to, or mass planting. Lots of times that's called hunk of seeds. So you just take the whole, open up your container and take that out and plant the whole seeds.
Okay, an example of when you would do that, our friend Amy, who's been doing this for years, said if she's growing something like creeping phlox, well, that's planted in a mass anyway. When you buy it at the store, it's in a pot, you don't take it apart, you just put it in there. So she's growing something like that that can be planted in a group. That's what she does with it.
How do you know which one to do?
You mean whether to single space plant or to whatever? If they're small enough seedlings and they're closely packed, things that you would normally thin anyway, I would plant them as a hump. But yeah, but if it's something more like, I think that looks like cabbage maybe.
Yarrow.
That. Oh, is it? No, I'm on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I would definitely single space those, but very small seeds that come up, sort of like when you plant carrots.
So carrots.
Yeah.
Carrots.
Well, I would plant them in little humps and then thin them, just like you. Yeah, they would come up in humps, and then you could thin them. All right.
If you have like one of the little packets of plants that have the 6 in a pack or whatever, you can take that pack and put it on top of your soil. Push it down so that indentation is there. That way you can space your tomato plants apart if you want. Look at on your package, sir. If it says to thin to so far apart, then if you wanted to not have to worry about thinning later, you could do something like that, do the individual ones. Yes.
Now, if you have a ton of containers, I've got probably 120 of these in my crawl space from distilled water. I was going to put water in them, but I'm now going to do this. If you have a lot of containers, you have a lot of space, do you want to single space to make it easier in general, or no?
I don't. If I'm doing something like the tomato plants last year, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to a jug. Now maybe by doing it 1 or 2 in a jug like that,
The roots could develop
the
more
roots could
before
develop.
you plant
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Maybe.
Is 5 to a jug considered single spacing?
I
Yeah.
would consider single spacing, yes.
But again, everybody that winter sows has certain things they like and don't like. There's a Facebook group, which I am not recommending, I'm just saying it's out there, called Winter Sowing, and there's so many different containers and methods and ideas out there. So I would say, if you want to try single spacing carrot seeds, go ahead. To me, that sounds like a nightmare, but you can try it. That's a good thing about winter sowing is if you're unsure, just try it, and then you'll know. Just keep documentation of what you did and how it worked out for you.
Then you want to seal those containers. Don't use Gorilla Tape. Use regular old duct tape, not planters or painter's tape, not packaging tape, duct tape. And you're going to tape it all the way around so that thing is closed. Going to place it outside. These critters stay outside. That's why it's called winter sowing. You normally do, you're not supposed to. You don't bring them back inside because it's kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. These, no caps on. You want it in a sunny location. You don't want it on the north side of your house. North, south, and east. You don't want it under an overhang because you want the moisture to get there from the snow or from the water. You want it to be a place where you don't have to worry about the pets getting into it. That's another reason why I use the T-post to help hold them in place. Someplace that you can see them, that you won't forget about them, because you're gonna want to go outside and say, okay, this one's got condensation in it, the soil's moist enough. You can also lift that jug up. If the jug is light, then it needs some water. Don't water it with a garden hose. Because you're going to disperse those seeds. Get a spray bottle and gently, I just put mine over the top and yeah, about 30, 40 squirts, and that moisture stays down inside them.
Our friend Amy plants about, what did she say, 120 jugs? She doesn't go around and if they need water, if she's lifted it and it feels a little light, even though it's seeing a little condensation, she takes the garden hose and she puts it on mist, and then she sets it up somewhere and just lets them get misted for 15, 20 minutes. And some that's just going to fall naturally into there.
Okay, you can peek. We definitely want you to peek. We want you to look inside and see if you've got anything germinating. Make sure there's moisture in there. And you have to be patient. I planted a lot of mine the 21st of February, and I don't have anything germinated yet. It's the time, and the temperature hasn't been right. Yes?
So you're using boxes.
That's her.
That's Amy's picture. Amy has hers in boxes. The boxes, if it rains and you got enough snow, they will fall apart.
I've got mine in open weave, not dark or in any way blocking sunlight. I've got them in like milk crates. Some milk crates like this, some of the bigger crates you buy have like lattice sides where the sun will still get in, but the wind won't take them over.
So if you can find just scrap bars of metal,
Yeah, anything.
anything so it don't
That's the idea. It is supposed to be easy and efficient. Recycle, reuse.
Use what you have.
Yeah, use what you have. And wait.
Wait, that's the hard
And
part.
that's the hard part, but it's the neat part too. Okay, this is the care. This isn't something that you can plant and just stick out there and not have to do something with it. I wish we could say it was that simple, but it's not. You still need to pay attention. So check the moisture. If you want to open the jug, you can and look, but only add the water if the soil dries out. That's why you check with that condensation in the jug. If there's condensation in there, you know that soil has heated up and cooled down from the sun, and you got that moisture there.
So condensation indicates moisture.
Condensation indicates moisture, yes, sir.
Kind of like that mini water cycle you learn about in school, you know, about how the lakes evaporate, they cool in the sky, condensate, and then rains. That's sort of like what's happening in there. But I would also, in addition, check the weight of the jug, because when you move that jug, when you first plant it, you'll get a feel for the weight of it. If it shows some condensation, for me at any rate, and it seems a little light, I will go ahead and give it some extra moisture.
Or if you see the condensation in that jug is really heavy, like they were in cardboard boxes, yes, the moisture is going to go through the cardboard. But say you put it in a regular plastic tub that has no holes in the bottom, then that soil is going to be sitting in that water. And then you're going to have to worry about the roots rotting. Okay. Open in the spring. You want to do it during the day after the true leaves. If there's a warm spell, you might want to open them if it's really hot, because the temperature in those jugs can get 20 degrees higher than what it is outside. So you may want to move them to a shade if there's a cold spell. And if you have something germinated, then you will need to cover them to protect them. A blanket,
Row cover stuff.
yeah, sheet, a blanket, row cover, things like that. But take them off the next day. Yes, sir.
Frost.
A frost. A frost, yes. Anything below, because there's 20 degrees warmer inside those jugs. So anything below 32, you're going to want to cover to protect. And take that cover off the next day.
And again, this is after they've germinated. If they haven't germinated, nobody cares. Right.
Okay, transplant.
Go back one real quick.
think about it. When if you've germinated and you got these leaves out, are you going to want to sit in that hot sun all day long? You're going to want to probably put them into a little bit of shade.
It can get cold without a frost,
Right,
yes.
Yeah.
So can you use burlap?
You can
Yeah.
use burlap.
Yeah.
Yes, something to protect them. Something you have around.
Yeah, don't go buy something that you don't have. Just use something that you have for all of this, right? And when you get these true leaves and they're still young seedlings, they're vulnerable to sudden shifts in temperature, so you have to protect them somewhat.
Now, are you putting the top back on?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I just put it down. I don't tape it back in place. I just put it like that and put the blanket over top of it.
And then what about a tarp or just plastic?
A tarp would help to keep the heat inside, underneath itself. Plastic,
It depends on the grade, how
Yeah.
thick, the thickness of the
Yeah.
plastic. Right.
and it would depend upon how tall your plants are. If your plants are already coming out through the top of it, you're going to have a hard time getting them closed too.
Right.
So you want at least the true leaves on the plants and only plant after the last frost date.
Which here is May 15th.
How many of you have went to nurseries and bought, oh, these are beautiful plants, let's put them in the ground. And what happens? You get a frost. Yes, that's what happens to all those people that go and get those vegetables ahead of us too. But make sure it's after the last frost date. You can pull them apart gently. You can take scissors and cut them apart. Make sure you water them thoroughly once you put them in the ground. Okay.
Yep. Sorry. What's your question?
Yeah.
16. No, do you have a list?
They warned me about that.
That's okay. There's transplant. Okay.
Okay, so you're going to go ahead and transplant them. Do you have any questions on that?
Is this all plants, brassicas, anything? It's all,
This is all plants.
after May 15th, no matter what plant.
No, think about it. There are some plants that can't take the cold, such as early peas and your cold weather plants. So, yeah. So that wouldn't include them. You could put them out sooner.
We'll have a handout for you on the germination.
Yeah, we have 3 different handouts up here for when we're doing that. Okay.
In 15 minutes on the Remax stage, vegetable gardening. All the
Okay,
Remax stages in 15
that's us, so we
minutes.
better hurry up.
Thank you.
April to May, you want to cover them if it's forecasted for overnight freezing, high winds. Those plants are hardened off just by being outside. That little bit of wind that they've got in there, once you've opened them, they're much sturdier and stronger than the ones you do inside with the grow light. And uncover them after the sun comes out. I'll go into it.
Well, I just want to give them time to, we have some people taking notes and I don't mean to rush them. All right. So one of the things that we like to focus on being master gardeners is we would like to encourage you to plant natives for wildlife. I don't know if this exact dollar value is correct because everything's gotten more expensive, including seeds. But comparatively, if you go and buy all your vegetable gardens and all your vegetables and all your decorative ornamental plants, as opposed to buying seeds and winter sowing them, you will save a considerable amount of money. I don't think you can buy much for $5. All right, we have some winter sowing references here. If you want these references, rather than try to copy them now, you can see one of us afterwards because, or you can just come up here. This is one of the handouts that we have. All right, we'd like to thank.
Homestead first aid. First aid on the homestead in 10 minutes on the farm credit stage.
We want to extend a special thanks, especially to the University of Maryland and the other Washington County, Charles County Master Gardeners, because some of this information came directly from them. Photo credits are the people listed here. Are there any questions before I? Yes. Okay. She's concerned about how do you keep worms and bugs. Well, until it germinates, it is in a sealed container. There's a coffee filter that you put in the bottom before you put the dirt in so no bugs can come up through, and there's tape all the way around it. After planting, then that is another, this is just about getting your seeds started. Now, the next session, which is vegetable gardening, may address some of those issues on bugs and worms. Okay. Yep. Oh, usually they're reaching for light. She wants to know why plants get leggy, and a lot of times they're just reaching for light too fast. And in this situation, they are germinating outside, and Mother Nature is taking care of the amount of light that they need at that time. Mine used to get really leggy when I used a grow light because I didn't know how far from the light it should be, and they say, oh, well, move it up, and then you got to move it down, because you don't want them to burn. With this method, you don't have those kind of problems. All right. Just for your information, we have helplines that you can reach by calling by phone. If you go to the Extension Office websites, you can find out the helpline phone numbers. We also have help desks for gardening questions at Harrisonburg and the Stanton Farmers Market, and we're also at the fairs in both counties. We have a plant sale coming up in Harrisonburg on May 13th. We have edibles, we have trees, we have flowers, we have shrubs, we have everything. They're all grown by master gardeners. We don't buy them and bring them in. All the master gardeners donate plants from their yards, and then we sell them at very, very reasonable prices. So that would be May 13th, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning and lasting until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we have a fall one in Verona. It's the same thing. It'll start at 9 o'clock in the morning. And fall is a wonderful time to plant many things so they can develop their root systems over the winter and be ready to go in the spring. So if you don't have everything you need, please come and check out our plant sales. If you're interested in becoming a extension master gardener, you can grow your own knowledge, share it with others, and hang out with other gardeners. And there's information on the CSV MGA website about becoming a master gardener. All right, so you guys, it's up to you now. And it would be wonderful if you could just email us at csvmga.org and let us know how it worked for you. That would be great. Send us some pictures. Tell us what worked, what didn't work, or if you have any further questions, you can email those questions to the Central Shenandoah Valley Master Gardeners Association. Do I have any questions? No. Yes.
You said in September it's good to plant some.
Oh, yes.
What sort of thing?
Trees, shrubs, some perennials. Yes.
What's the best kind of dirt to use? I missed part of the first part.
Oh, any well-known potting soil. I wouldn't buy the cheapest garden bin you could find. Don't use seed starting mix because it doesn't have enough nutrients in it for once they germinate. You know what I'm saying? These guys are going to germinate and stay in there for a while, so they need those nutrients. So don't use the seed starting mix.
You said put the coffee filter on the bottom?
Because if you put it inside on the ground, slush, or cut worms or something, but that coffee filter will let the water drain out when it walks.
And places you can start.
Outside, I kind of see. Oh, I just did it Saturday afternoon. I was going to sell. I'm still doing now.
So get your
Tomatoes,
tomatoes
tomatoes,
with the
peppers.
silver in and your dirt. Then your
Make
seed.
sure